My parents, they were fine. I'm very thankful for them. They did everything they did with love, but they did some mistakes as well. And I grew up kind of with a lack of love, taking overly a lot of responsibility for my parents' well-being. I had this inside of me, but it was never really taken care of. And I took care of this in the coaching, and I realized that everything I went through in life, it happened for a reason. And once I connected with those parts inside of myself, as my mentor Robert Dill says, something seeks to be held, heard, and healed. As soon as I connected with them, went through some coaching sessions, I got in a much more empathetic connection with myself. And some things inside of myself were released or unleashed. So thanks, Michael, again for inviting me. So I'm Tilman Resch, I'm 34. I'm based in Munich, but I travel a lot. Right now, we are meeting here in Bali in the B-Work. And yeah, I have two hats on currently. My first role is I'm in Amazon Web Services as an account team leader. So I have 3 large software clients. They are building software on AWS, and I help them build more successfully. I help them innovate, and I help them market and increase their sales revenue, which ultimately translates into infrastructure consumption from AWS as well. So that's my first role, and I must say I really enjoy that one. That's my corporate job. And the second one is my personal development business, Bright Minds. I started this 1.5 years ago after really diving deep into coaching, personal development for 5 years. And yeah, right now I'm doing one-to-one coaching. I'm going to release a book in December called Success Fundamentals. And in Q1, I'm also launching a group coaching program called Success Habits.
You're doing a lot of things.
I'm doing a lot of things.
How do you currently balance the corporate 9-to-5 travel, which is because you're here now, obviously in Bali, and also your one-person business with the coaching?
So I always say I am client zero of what I'm coaching. So it's a lot about mindset. But it's also about, are you working on what you're really passionate about? Because this is making the difference. I oftentimes work until the evening for AWS. I oftentimes work for my own business in the evening or in the early morning. So you got to be passionate about it, but you also got to have the right habits. You got to have the energy. You got to have the ability to focus on both things. You got to have the ability to switch. So it's also related to identity. I have different identities in the 2 roles. My teams at AWS, they have different expectations than my client that I'm coaching one-to-one. But there is also a lot of things in common. For example, being fully with the customer, serving the other person. So yeah, this is to wrap it up. I'm applying what I'm teaching in my coaching. I'm actually applying it to myself.
I want to talk more about the business and also the book, but I also want to go back to your journey. So you said you studied engineering,
right?
And then you went to a big engineering firm. So you're what, 22, 23, 24 at that point? Can you walk us through that period from 24 to 34 of where you are now?
Of course. Let me start a bit earlier. I come from a small village in Germany, and the influence that I got at that time is do something normal. Study engineering, do a normal career. And if I think back, my goals were quite standard. I wanted to have a decent salary, have a house, have a family. But then I studied. I did my semesters abroad. I did my engineering degree. Through my travels, through my networking, I met people who recommended a quite exclusive MBA program to me with a scholarship. I got into that MBA program right after my engineering degree. And this is how I got into Siemens. So it was still a more or less standard corporate career. So by the age of 27, I started at Siemens right after my engineering degree and an MBA I did afterwards. And I was in product management first and then in business development. And I remember one day I got a quite destructive or negative feedback from my boss at Siemens. And this is when I started thinking that I don't fit in 100%. So I'm super grateful for what I learned in this German. It's also a tech firm, right? But this is why I seeked for something else, for this American tech culture. And I found it in Amazon Web Services. And this is when I realized that I can be myself in my work, in what I'm doing, and I can be excellent in it as well. So I kind of connected with my strengths, and people accepted me just the way I was. At the same time, I did my first neuro-linguistic programming seminar. So 5 years ago, I learned about coaching. I coached clients in these courses. I got coaching. I got one-to-one coaching as well. So this is also when my personal development journey started.
What was so pivotal about that age? Because 27, 28, you'd already been working at Siemens, but then a lot of things happened. Was that feedback that you got? You realized you didn't fit here. You went to Amazon, and then you also started with this personal development, coaching, neuro-linguistic programming course. What happened?
Well, I was 3 years into the job. I had a good salary. I was living in Munich, living a good life, you could say. But I sensed that there is something more. My intuition told me that there was something more out there. And this is how one thing came to the other one. But why did I take this neuro-linguistic programming class? Well, this goes back to my childhood, to how I grew up. It didn't really teach me an entrepreneurial mindset. However, I got something really important. I think everything in life teaches you a lesson, and that was be independent, work hard in order to be able to choose the environment that you are in, to choose the people that are around you. Another thing was my parents, they were fine. I'm very thankful for them. They did everything they did with love, but they did some mistakes as well. And I grew up kind of with a lack of love, taking overly a lot of responsibility for my parents' well-being. And I had this inside of me, but it was never really taken care of. And I took care of this in the coaching, and I realized that everything I went through in life, it happened for a reason. And once I connected with those parts inside of myself, as my mentor Robert Dill says, something seeks to be held, heard, and healed. As soon as I connected with them, went through some coaching sessions, I got in a much more empathetic connection with myself. And some things inside of myself were released or unleashed. And, you know, it's this one step from being not so good to being okay. And then if you are okay, you can basically apply the same things and then figure out, okay, what do I actually want? Be myself. I could be myself in that role at AWS, but then also start doing what I love on the side. And 1.5 years ago, I just put a business around it. I had been already coaching people, helping people before that. And this is how the Bright Minds journey started for me.
How did you trust your intuition? Not just trust it, how did you then trust it and then act on it?
You know, I went through a lot of learning experiences. I had an online business actually for 7 years. I was selling rose boxes with preserved roses online. It was a beautiful product. These roses would last for 3 years, but it had a huge supply chain behind it. There was somebody producing these things. We had to do the online marketing. It was a competitive market. I did that for 7 years. I had to work in the evening sometimes. And I'm grateful for that. I'm still grateful for that experience. I think everything happens for a reason. But then once I sold the company, I had some freedom to start the new thing, you know? And then I realized how great it is to work on something that you truly love, because it doesn't feel like work.
So you've had a business selling preserved roses for 7 years. Was that like an e-commerce store? And you had a big supply chain.
Selling on Amazon. Yeah.
And then you've gone into coaching, and you've had a 9-to-5 job the entire time.
That's right.
Where do you think you got this entrepreneurial drive from?
I think there are two components to this. One is, I think oftentimes in life we are driven by what we didn't have in some period of our lives, or what we had in abundance. We want that because we are used to it. So I didn't have that entrepreneurial spirit around me for a long time, but with it, the freedom to choose the people you are surrounded with, the freedom to create something. So somehow I was seeking for that. And then when I was studying abroad in Shanghai, when I was studying abroad in Mexico, I met so many people from all over the world. And luckily, I was very open to connect with people, to ask people questions. To invite people into my life who gave me some advices, who inspired me. But there is always two persons to it. I took some advices, and this is how my entrepreneurial sense developed.
How did you come up with the idea of the preserved roses?
It was a random idea. So my friend was on holiday in Budapest, and he saw that they are doing it there. At that time, it didn't exist yet. So we wanted to replicate it. We checked on Alibaba, found a supplier. I designed a logo. We found a partner to produce it. We created a website, and it worked.
And then selling the company, what was that experience like?
There is a website in Germany where you can post your company and find people who are interested to buy it. So I got, 50 requests or so.
Oh, wow.
But you have to sort it out. And ultimately, there was one perfect match. And this was a large flower company in Germany. They bought it. And, they had the supply chain. They had the stuff to make it bigger. So it was just a good match.
So what was the company's name? Can you say it?
Paris en Rose.
And that's obviously German or French?
It's French.
It's French. I
Yeah.
thought so. And so
I came up with a name.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful name.
Yes.
Does that business still exist, or the name exist, or is it completely separate?
It still exists. You can buy these roses on Amazon in Germany or on our website.
Oh, that's very cool. So what age did you sell that company?
32 years ago.
Okay, so 2 years ago, you also went through another pretty big change.
Right.
So at 32, how long had you been at Amazon Web Services?
For 3 years.
Okay, so you've been at Amazon Web Services for 3 years at that point.
Yeah.
You sold that business.
Right.
And then you went into the coaching business.
Right.
How was managing that transition?
So I think whenever in life you let something go, there is space for something new to occur. And sometimes it's hard to let it go because you are so used to it. And well, it was then quite easy to let it go after the transition was done. But for a long time, I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do. So I went to this Tony Robbins event, Unleash the Power Within, in Birmingham in July 2023. And, in those 4 days, you learn a lot about yourself. You change some limiting beliefs. You get clarity on your purpose, what you really want. And especially, you condition this mindset of clarity. So what I did when I came back to Germany, I was just sitting down after my morning routine, 3 hours each morning, and writing down what my coaching program was supposed to be about. So, of course, I do NLP coaching. I help people overcome inner obstacles, understand themselves better, what they truly want, and how to get there. But you want to create something unique. And I think one of my differentiators is clearly that I've been working in tech companies, corporate tech, for 8 years now. But then another thing is that I'm helping people not only to overcome the obstacles, but also I give them very clear guidance and tools and systems, and I hold them accountable to follow through on what they want. And yeah, I just came up with that after the UPW seminar from Tony Robbins. This is how it all started. But I started with, begin with the end in mind, as Stephen Covey says. I had this vision, but I didn't know exactly yet how to do it. But I started asking people, finding mentors, attending trainings. And this is an advice that I would give to people today. Once you know what you want to do, there is always a way to get there. And I think two factors are most powerful. One is find mentors, invite mentors into your life, ask people who have already achieved it, and be open to learn. So when it comes to NLP, for example, the creators of NLP, they are still alive. Richard Bandler, John Grinder, Robert Dills. You can visit trainings from them. You can learn those skills, and then you can apply them. Of course, you can also learn everything at institutes all over the world. And there are lots of different trainers and coaches now. But you got to figure out what is right for you. What I want to say is the knowledge is out there. Once you know what you want to do, you can learn it and you can apply it.
We'll get back to the podcast in 1 minute, but I just wanted to let you know the sponsor of this week's episode, which is me. So I've got a free 5-day email course that will help anyone with a 9-to-5 or a beginner solopreneur start and scale their business to $1,000 per month. So you can find the link in the description in this podcast episode. Click on it. It's free to sign up. You'll get 5 emails from me teaching you and walking you through how to start your one-person business and make your first $1,000 per month recurring. So I'll see you there, and thank you for listening to this episode. So 32 to the present day. It's about 2 years,
Right.
2 years into this coaching business. What have been some of the results that you've gotten from clients that you're really proud of?
Yeah, just to name a few results that my clients achieved. For example, I help them overcome negative emotion patterns that they've had for many years or for their entire life. But also I help them make 2, 3, 4 hours meaningful time every day by organizing themselves better. I help them understand what their life mission and purpose is. I help them get clarity about the vision, what they want to create. And when you do everything you do in life, day to day, when you do that with a clear purpose, with a clear vision in mind, life becomes so much more meaningful. I help people to gain more confidence, to successfully apply for a new job that gave them up to 45% more salary. I help the client get into his first advisory position, but also have more energy on a day-to-day basis. And there are 2 factors on this. So I teach them how to be more healthy, how to take more care of their body, mind, heart, and spirit. And also an outcome-based organization system that I teach them. So rather than only managing their to-dos, I encourage my clients to manage what is truly important for them in their lives and then live by those standards. And this makes, life just much more fulfilling, and they create much bigger results in whatever they want to achieve.
And where does the book come into this coaching aspect? What inspired you to do the book, and what's your experience been writing this book?
Yeah. In the last 5 years, I have learned from some of the best mentors and teachers in the fields of neuro-linguistic programming, personal development, effectiveness, how you can focus. So I have learned from a lot of great mentors and teachers. I have applied this with my teams in Amazon Web Services. I have applied this on myself. I have applied this with clients. So there is a lot that I can share, and I just want a good vehicle to share this with the world. Personally, I'm a big fan of books because of 2 aspects. First of all, as an author, you can share something which is really in your heart. You can share something in a really authentic way. And at the same time, you can reach people. You can reach people at scale. So if somebody asks me, hey, what are you doing? I can give them my book. And I know that if they just apply one lesson that is in that book, it can potentially change their life. And of course, this is then aligned with my mission, with what I want to contribute to the world. Yeah, and I call it Success Fundamentals, by the way, because many of those principles that are in the book, they have been out there for centuries. They have been out there since thousands of years, some of them. But most people just don't apply them. And of course, I didn't apply many of them myself in my life. So in Success Habits or in Success Fundamentals, we have 5 phases. And this is also the journey that I went through chronologically. So first, working on my mindset, understanding, hey, we can be proactive about our mindset, the values that we have, the identity that we have. We can change it. Which needs do we prioritize? How do we fulfill our needs? But then also having a clear vision and mission and purpose in what you are doing, prioritizing, taking action, having a clear focus, organizing yourself, but also holding yourself accountable and showing the right discipline and self-leadership. So all of this I'm sharing in my book with a lot of theory, but also examples and exercises.
What's the experience of writing a book? Because I know it can be very tricky.
So I would almost say, like everything in life, it's all about state. I think you can spend 2 years writing a book, but you can also do it in several weeks if you get into the right state. So for me, the best writing time is early in the morning. I get up at 4:30 on an ideal day. I do my morning routine and I spend 3 hours writing. And this is just a period where my mind is so creative and open that I think what could take me 10, 15 hours, I get it done in 3 hours and really like the result. And I hope the audience will like it as well.
Do you mind sharing what your morning routine is?
Of course. It's actually inspired by Tony Robbins. So I get up at 4:30 in the morning, drink 2 glasses of warm water. I go out, do a 3 minutes breathing exercise. I do 3 minutes of gratitude. I do 3 minutes of visualization. I do 3 minutes of incantations. So incantations are basically affirmations, but you do it with your whole body. And luckily, at then 5 in the morning, there is nobody else on the street because I'm screaming, not screaming, but I'm speaking it out loud. Like the affirmations about my identity, about myself, what I want to achieve, embodying it fully. And after that, there is a 6 minutes cool down phase where I'm visualizing the day ahead. So I'm imagining how I smile at people, how I'm creating results. And then there is this internal energy dial inside of myself at the end of it. And I'm just turning it up to 5 and maximizing the energy inside of me. And
this is just you doing this in your arm.
I'm doing it all in my mind, yes. So I am applying what I've learned. For a long time, I've learned things and never applied them. And now I do it consistently.
And now with your present day, so you wake up at 4:30 a.m.
Yeah.
You do your morning routine. You write for 3 hours for the first 3 hours of the day. Then at some point you get ready and go to your job.
Right.
What do you think your 9 to 5 job and your coaching? How do you think they help each other?
It's actually super synergetic. So let me start from the beginning. When I started Bright Minds, I thought there can be just one or the other. So I thought, okay, I have to leave my AWS role as soon as possible. But there was a big inner conflict because I actually loved what I was doing at AWS. And then after the time, I realized how synergetic this actually is. Because what I learn and what I teach in my coaching business, I can apply all of this in AWS and I can outperform in my role at AWS. At the same time, what I learn about leadership, about serving clients, about communication, about a company vision, how a company works, I can apply all of this in Bright Minds as well. And I think this is also how I find my unique positioning. And I can just encourage anyone out there who is also thinking about building their own side business, don't make it an either or. Find the synergy between it. And I've heard so many times that it's not possible to do both. But I've been doing it now for 1.5 years. I'm outperforming in my job at AWS. And I'm doing very well with Bright Minds. So it is possible. It's just a matter of how you do it. But also, these two roles, ideally, they would be somehow synergetic.
You started both your 9 to 5 and business journey about 10 years ago. You got your first full-time job around 24, 25, started the rose preservation business at about 25 as well. You've gone through acquisition, sale, starting a new business. What were some of the internal and external challenges you've had to overcome during that time?
So there were a lot of challenges in the last 10 years, as you can imagine. I think whenever we expand, whenever we grow, then some things in our mindset, they show up, some vulnerable parts that were kind of hidden before, they are showing up. We are showing ourselves. We are being exposed in some way. We are exposing ourselves. We are taking responsibility on us, and then things happen. I can give you one example in my rose boxes business, Paris en Rose. We had Valentine's Day, Christmas, we had a lot of orders and something went wrong and I had to fix it because there was no one else. There was my employee, but whenever she couldn't solve something, then I had to help out. At the same time, maybe a project escalates at AWS at Siemens and I have to handle it. So there were some nights with very little sleep, moments of pressure, but I went through it somehow. And I think most important was just to stay persistent, to continue doing what I'm doing. Another thing more related to my mindset, or also the feedback I got from other people, you can imagine in those 10 years, there were lots of naysayers saying, hey, why don't you just focus on your job? You have a good 9 to 5 job. Isn't this enough for you? Why do you want more? Kind of work on yourself to be satisfied with what you have. I think many of us or many of the listeners of your podcast, they will know that feeling that they have this dream inside of their head. They want something special, but people around them trying to stop them or telling them, don't do it. But what I also realized is that for a long time, I wasn't 100% congruent within myself. I wasn't 100% confident that the path that I'm on is the right one. And only when I changed that, only when I started becoming really congruent with what I'm doing on the side with my business, then I started getting more consistently positive feedback from others. And the naysayers started to shut up, or there were no more naysayers or less naysayers than before. But it's really this internal congruence. I mean, this is also about the power of feedback that you get. maybe not all the feedback is accurate, and maybe not all the feedback is helpful at first sight. But then if you think about it, if you really take any piece of advice or feedback that you get with your conscious mind, reflect about it, it happens for a reason. But important is that you are clear about your purpose, about your vision, about what you want, and then take the feedback for what it is.
How did you handle the fear, the self-doubt, the uncertainty, even the criticism in your journey?
Yes. So what I did in the past, I used some of the classical ways, such as working very hard to be good enough to overcome those emotions, or numbing myself, going out with friends and drinking alcohol, eating too much so I feel sleepy and then just shut off, or distracting myself, doing really unnecessary things just to hide or to escape from those emotions. And what I realized later on, and of course through what I'm teaching in my coaching as well, is, well, first of all, we all have this emotional home where there are some positive emotions residing and some negative ones. So taking care of it and consciously managing your state every day, making sure that you actually have positive emotions that are prevailing on a day-to-day basis. And then whenever a negative emotion comes, whenever I feel fear, for example, I actually invite it. I feel the feeling. I connect with it. As I said before, something to be held, heard, and healed. And usually when I feel some of these feelings, there could be a breakthrough ahead. But the basis for that is that my standard emotional home is taken care of, that the prevailing emotions are positive ones.
What did you value 5 years ago that you no longer value now?
It's drinking alcohol, eating delicious fast food, partying until 5 a.m.
What's the most valuable skill set you needed in your job, your 9-to-5 job, but also as a solopreneur?
So quickly switch between different roles that I have, because my teams in AWS, I have to be 100% present and focusing on this. But in my personal development business, it's the same. So the ability to get into a certain state, to switch, to focus, managing my energy, this is really important. And this relates to my sleeping habits, to my nutrition habits. And what I've always had was a very strong ambition. So if I wanted something, I worked hard to get it. I'm kind of relentless. So when I wanted something, I worked in a relentless way to get it. And I was often criticized for this. Hey, why are you working so hard? But no, I actually like it. So also being playful, liking what I do, loving what I do, this is also important. Because a lot of people here in Bali, for example, they are surfing, partying. And it's not that I never do that, but most of the time here I'm spending in the co-working space, I'm spending in the gym, taking my ice bath, sometimes a yoga class. I'm working on the weekend. I connect with people here and I love it. I don't have to do the surfing part and the partying part. I don't always have to do that. So choosing what is important for me in the moment, which is aligned with what I want, and just being happy with it.
What's the biggest mistake you see most people who start a business on the side alongside their 9-to-5 job make?
So there are three things to this. The first one is not even starting. I speak with so many people. When they hear about my business, they say, oh yeah, I also have this dream. I always wanted to do that. But they just never start. It was never as easy to start a side business as it is today. So I can just encourage anyone to start. The second thing is doing something just for the money, because you got to work evenings, you got to work early mornings, and you don't want to get into negative stress. And why? So what I would encourage anyone is to be clear about what they really want, and what is their purpose, their mission, what do they want to create in life, and what are they passionate about, and then find something that is related to this, and then start it. And really, before you start it, speak with some people who are already there, who have already done it. Find out if it is actually something for you. And the third thing is, when you have a corporate job and a side business on the side as a solopreneur, you cannot continue doing the things as you did them before. You got to change your daily habits a little bit. You got to change your time management. You got to be conscious about that. Because if you just continue doing things as you did them before, you're not going to succeed. And you're going to have to go through some hard times. You're going to have to make some breakthroughs. But, whenever we feel a lot of pressure in life, there could be a breakthrough ahead. And there are then two choices that we have in this moment. One is to give up. And this is what most people would do. Maybe there is a good friend who says, okay, let's just watch Netflix. Let's just don't do it. It just gives you stress. Or to break through, to continue doing it. And once you are at that point, then you can start really enjoying it. But you got to make some breakthroughs. And don't give up at the moment when it's hard.
Putting your tech hat on here, what are some of the emerging trends or technologies that you're particularly excited about? And how do you see them influencing the future of your field?
Yeah. The field of coaching, I think it's going to grow a lot in the next years. People are really opening up for this. From the people I know, I think right now maybe 2% they have a coach. 2% are taking coaching. But in my opinion, everybody should have a coach. Just like every professional athlete has one, everybody should have a coach. So how is technology going to change the coaching world? Well, one of the key success factors in the coaching session is the rapport or the connection between the coach and the client. So the human factor plays a very big role. But it also depends what the topic is. And there are lots of topics in coaching that I think a conversational AI could really help with because of the power of questions. Depending on the questions we ask ourselves or the questions we ask to other people, this can change our entire life. And if you just think of that, if you train an AI well enough to ask somebody the right questions or to interpret somebody's language patterns, and coach them in how to use a more helpful inner language. There is a lot of power in this. So I think conversational AI will have a big influence on the coaching industry. Not that it's taking away the jobs of coaches, because more and more will be needed, but it will just give access to more and more people. But it will give more and more people access to different coaching methods. And lastly, it's getting so easy now through generative AI to build software. So I think there will be an exponential increase of software out there in the future. And I mean, if you have a great software idea, it could take you 1 month to build it and a small team to maintain the software. And then it's really about creating the right thing for the client. So understanding the client's needs, communicating with the client, selling. But selling means helping. It means identifying the problem of the client, solving it, and then building a software out of this. It's a huge opportunity out there.
What's a big trend in the future of work that you think most people are not talking about?
Yeah, I think more and more people will have a side business in the future, and companies have to open up for that if they want to keep the best employees. I really appreciate that Amazon and Amazon Web Services are so supportive for that. And I think it's going to be required in the future because people want to express themselves, and you just cannot always do that in your corporate role or in your startup job. So a lot of people want to do something on the side. But then how do they reach clients on the side? I think there will be more and more marketplaces, ecosystems, and ways where you can offer those services. I also think that offline services like yoga classes, massages, anything connected with the human will become more and more relevant.
What advice would you give to someone who's just starting out on their solopreneurship one-person business journey?
I would say make sure that what you want is somehow aligned with what you want in life. So don't just do it for the money. Find a purpose behind it. Make sure that this gives you some juice, that it gives you some energy, that inspires you, that you actually love what you are doing on the side. Change your habits. When you have a side business, you gotta change some things compared to your previous 9-to-5 job. I hear a lot of people say, I'm not an early morning person. I think we are all born with the ability to become a morning person. We just gotta set the alarm early enough and just get up and develop that habit. So change your habits, then trust in yourself. There will be a lot of naysayers on the way. You gotta continue. Sometimes what you start with is not what you end up with, but the journey is part of it. and things happen for a reason. Important is that along the journey, you talk with a lot of people. You go to places like co-working spaces, you go to communities, you network with people, you share, you listen. And in this way, ideas can evolve. The most important thing at the beginning is to take the decision to become a solopreneur, to start that journey as an entrepreneur, to have an own business. And then along the way, things may change, but it's a mindset thing, it's an identity thing. And once you really adopt that identity, a whole new world is going to open up.
What are 1 to 3 of the most impactful books you've read?
I give you 3, but very quick ones. So the first book is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People from Stephen Covey. It's such a great book. It summarizes universal principles for success, for better relationships, for better well-being in 7 chapters. And the principles, they have been out there for thousands of years, but we just don't apply them. So I can encourage anyone to read this book and apply some of these principles. The second one is Relentless by Tim Grover. Tim Grover used to be the basketball coach from Michael Jordan. And what relentlessness is about, it's about this energy inside of ourselves to reach something no matter what. So to do whatever it takes to get to an outcome. And I have this side inside of myself, and it didn't get a lot of validation before that, but this book really validates it. It gives a name to it. And it says that it's okay that we are relentless sometimes, and just focusing on something so much, we enjoy it so much that we would spend a whole night working on it. And this is what that book is about. And the third one is Never Eat Alone from Keith Ferrazzi. I was always communicating a lot with people, meeting a lot of people, but for a long time, what I didn't do is the follow-up. And so I kind of wasted a lot of beautiful connection with people because we were just exchanging contacts, but the follow-up just never happened. And what I do now is, I truly connect with people anyway. And then just on the next day, I would send them a personal message. And sometimes a conversation evolves out of it. And then ideas are exchanged. And the book inspired me to do that. By the way, also to organize dinner events at my house. So I can encourage anyone who wants to improve their networking skills or make their network more fertile and fruitful to read that book.
What advice would you give to your 29-year-old self?
Do what you love. Trust in the process. Everything that happens for a reason. But you got to know what you want. And also buy 100 Bitcoins.
Is there any final message you want to leave with the audience?
I would encourage anyone who works in a corporate role, who wants to start their solopreneurship, their side business, just do it. I'm doing it, and I say it can be fun, it can be fulfilling, it can really expand your horizon. And then a lot of people ask themselves, okay, should I stay where I am, or should I then move to Bali or to another city? Should I move to Thailand? Well, connect it with your outcome and what you want in life. Or it could just be a period of time. But no matter where you are, most important is that you choose your environment. You can choose the people you hang out with, no matter if it's in Munich, if it's in Bali, if it's in Thailand, if it's in Singapore. Just be proactive about that.
And where can people find you?
People can find me on LinkedIn, Tilman Resch, Bright Minds Coaching, or on the website www.brightminds.io.
Hello, friends, and thank you again for listening to this week's episode of the podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard and got value from the podcast, I would love for you to share it with a friend who also wants to start, grow, and scale their solopreneur business or on their own one-person business journey. And if you could like and subscribe, that would be amazing. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye.